For the latest to our YouTube channel, click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome to the Gist on Strat News Global. I'm Surya Gangadharan, and this evening we're going to look at Modi's Mission Europe. As you're aware, the Prime Minister is in Germany on the first leg of a three-nation tour of Germany, Denmark, and France. Germany, his meetings with the Chancellor Olaf Scholz is underway. We are yet to see anything about what has been agreed upon, how the discussions went, what are the items on the agenda. So that'll probably come in later. We'll try and maybe put out a written story on that later in the evening. So I'm going to launch straight away into this discussion with my guest this evening, Banashri Bose Harrison, former ambassador to Sweden. She also headed the MEA's division on Central Europe for many years. Ambassador Harrison, welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Very nice to be in your program.
Glad to have you, Ambassador. For a long time, India may have seen Europe through a largely Russian lens. This is an observation that has been made by many people. Do you believe that is changing, and do you believe that this Ukraine conflict has helped, at least a country like Germany to be seen by India in a different light?
Well, though I'm not an expert on Germany, but I think the fact is that ever since EU was formed, Germany has been an economic heavyweight. And even though it has not exerted its weight, it has not thrown its weight around, so to speak. But the fact is that it has been a big influencer of how EU has developed and of what I would call the old Europe. If you look at it, France and Germany together, especially after Brexit, I mean, these are the two countries which are the most important in EU with or without the Ukraine crisis. However, the fact that the new German Chancellor took a very forceful decision, which actually went against what had been the German policy ever since the Second World War, I think that had a very important effect on the articulation of the policy of EU towards Ukraine. So in that sense, yes, Ukraine gave Germany an opportunity to show its leadership on this critical issue. But I don't think it's an easy path ahead for Germany, having decided on this, what they call the epoch-changing event, the policy that they have articulated and which has led the way. And you can see that in the implementation of the decisions that were announced. And, there are so many sort of complexities which are involved. So I think German leadership is going to be tested by the Ukraine crisis. Certainly, it has given the new German Chancellor, an opportunity to assert it and to use a language which would make it seem as if Germany is changing its position. But the economics, the history, will they allow that change to take place, especially with a coalition government? I think we'll all have to watch the space with great interest.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is that for all the talk of rearming and 100 billion euros and on defense spending, Germany would still be deeply influenced by its wartime past. Is that what you're saying?
You see, finally, every country in the EU is also constrained by its own domestic politics and what its people will want. Germany is no exception. I mean, however much foreign policy leadership the German government wishes to show, finally, its economics and its history are sort of going to make it very difficult.
Yeah.
And the world situation is not that easy. Germany's history with Russia, what happened during the Second World War with Russia,
Absolutely.
the extermination of the Russian Jews, all that is there in collective memory.
Yeah.
So will Germany actually be able to take leadership in a military action against Russia? Somehow I don't see that happening.
So let's come to Narendra Modi. We all broadly know, India, Germany, we've had a kind of on-off kind of thing going on for some years. But Narendra Modi has been there quite a few times. What would you say are what is it that we can look forward to in terms of Modi's meetings with Olaf Scholz and the deliberations that he has there? What is it that we can look forward to?
From the current visit?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think what is very important in the current visit that I see is that it will be a strengthening of India's relationship with EU and with Europe, a region with which India shares the very important democratic values. We as diplomats keep talking about it, but it is a fact that democratic countries have a certain value system, have a certain innate understanding. And Prime Minister Modi has been able to very well tap into that and form personal rapports with many of the leaders of Europe. And I think this visit will further strengthen that. Europe is, even though it has problems, an economic powerhouse, not just Germany, but France and as we have been talking, Northern Europe, with countries which are amongst the world's richest per capita income countries.
Absolutely.
The potential of a post-COVID economic rapprochement and economic collaboration with these countries would be of great help, not just to India, but to these countries as well, and will strengthen the mutual respect and cooperation that we have.
So would you care to tick off, say, 2 or 3 possible outcomes of this? Would you care to speculate a bit?
One thing that I must also, that I forgot to say was, I think this visit will also help enhance an understanding of India's nuanced position on Ukraine. We have a historical relationship with Russia. And we need to be able to, not on a defensive way, but we need to be able to explain our what policy that we are following, its logic to our friends. And European countries are our friends. So the outcome that I envisage from this visit, the one that I personally have been following and I'm very interested in, is the India Nordic summit more, I would say, than the India EU engagement. But I think there is going to be the activation of the India EU, the technological cooperation roundtable, which had been talked of, and that holds enormous potential. But as you would have realized, I'm a Scandinavia feel, and that is the aspect that I have been focusing on, because I was very impressed with the fact that the Modi government really made up for, I would say, not deliberate, but inadvertent neglect of the very important region of North Europe, which, in my ministry as well, I mean, there is no special focus on North Europe. You used to have East Europe, West Europe. Now you have East.
Yeah.
Now East Europe doesn't exist anymore. Europe doesn't have an East. It has Central Europe and West Europe. But North Europe, with its economic and technological potential, deserves the focus. And the second India Nordic summit, I think, will give it that necessary push. The title of the joint statement that was issued during the visit of President Löfven, the then Swedish President Löfven, for the celebration of the first Make in India summit. In fact, as an aside, the three heads of state who came for that were all from Northern Europe and Lithuania, Finland, and Sweden. The title of that joint statement was higher ambition, stronger momentum. The time has come, I think, in India-Nordic relations for higher ambition and stronger momentum by all the parties concerned.
So let me come to the Nordic part, since that's where your interest and specialization lies. I have an interesting observation from Jaydeep Gadhavi. He's saying the visit is coming at an interesting time. It would be interesting to see the meeting of the Nordic Council, as some members are deliberating to join NATO. I think he's referring to Sweden and Finland. Does that create an issue in terms of India's interaction with that Nordic Council?
The two countries, which Norway is a member already of NATO, the Norway which is furthest from Russia, but Sweden and Finland, which have followed a very considered policy, which I think India can understand, that military neutrality is the best means of your national security. They have followed that policy for the last 50 years, even though both countries have been victims of acts of aggression from Russia, Soviet Union, and there's a strong history of such acts of aggression. Despite that, they have persevered with military neutrality, and they have good partnership with NATO, but they have not joined NATO. I think Ukraine has given a big shock to everybody in Europe. They have realized that security of NATO is not necessarily their security.
Absolutely.
So there is a rethink. But both these countries, Nordic countries in general, are very pragmatic countries. They make haste slowly. I don't see any quick decision. But in any case, even if we were to assume that both Sweden and Finland joined NATO, I don't see how it would affect our relationship with them. We have excellent strategic partnership, including in the field of defense, with America, with France, with Germany, all NATO members. So it wouldn't affect anything, I believe, even if these countries were to join NATO, as far as India's relationship with them goes. But I think it will be a big, it will be it will add to the disequilibrium of security within Europe.
The northern part of Europe, a bit of a backwater as far as India is concerned. We know very little about it. It's very cold, I'm told. From what you were telling me, it was freezing over there. So what is it that they have? What is it that they can offer us, which the rest of Europe doesn't have?
Well, as you yourself have said, this little cold part of Europe, which most of us don't even know is just 2 hours from Frankfurt, as is London, speaks English almost as much as is done in England. But we are not aware of it. They are actually much more aware of what India is about. Many of them have come here. Many companies from the Nordic countries have been part of India's economic development, not today, but for the last 50 years. Ericsson, Alfa Laval, Atlas Copco, subsequently Tetra Pak, Scania, Volvo, they have all been here. The Swedish and other Scandinavian business leaders who come here, they are very excited by what they see as the economic opportunities here. They are also very happy, I would say, if I can use such a word, in business context, but they are very welcoming of the fact that India is a democracy, and they would really like to contribute to see India achieve its economic potential in any way that they can. It's not just something that they say. My 4 years in Sweden gave me enough insight to realize that they really mean it. And it is up to us to take that opportunity. But Indian businesses, to some extent, even Indian leaders, till Prime Minister Modi corrected it, just glossed over North Europe. It actually didn't exist. So what does it have to offer? It has immense innovative capacity. It has very strong engineering skills. It has really a different kind of management approach which brings out the best in you. Also, it has a shortage of what we have in plenty: skilled and trainable manpower. In Sweden, India is the topmost country as far as provision of technical manpower is concerned. And it is welcome. It is not something, unlike in another country that I served in, it is not something that anybody is objecting to or, raising visa restrictions for. It is easy. They go in, they settle down, and they integrate. The only issue remains the cold. But then, I think in current Delhi temperatures, maybe a bit of Nordic coldness would be very welcome. But taking it more seriously, what are the programs that Prime Minister Modi has launched? Make in India, Digital India, Swachh Bharat, Green India. In each of these, Nordic countries have a lot to offer. Sustainable smart cities. As I mentioned to you, Stockholm was the first green city in Europe. The problem with the Scandinavians or the Nordics is that they don't blow their own trumpet. So, it's left to those who know, those who have gone there, businessmen who have gone there. For example, the Indian leader of the India-Sweden Business India Roundtable, Baba Kalyani, speak to him. He will tell you about what Sweden can offer. So one thing I told you is sustainable technology, sustainable waste to energy. They have tremendous capacity, and there is a whole city which runs its transport system on energy generated from its waste. They have also the capacity to address some of our basic needs. They come up with innovative solutions. Using solar energy, they have a box whereby you can put in dirty water, 10 liters of dirty water, put it in the sun, and after a while you have clean, warm water, even if you don't have water supply. This is the kind of thing we need.
Mm-hmm. So
you
I have another question.
Because I'm very excitable on this matter.
So I have another question from Salvatore Babones. Thank you very much, sir, for your contribution. Is Prime Minister Modi's trip really about buying jet engines? I think can you answer that question?
I can't hear your question.
Is Prime Minister Modi's trip really about buying jet engines?
Is about
buying jet engines.
Buying
Jet engines. You can see the question here.
Well, I'm afraid that's a question you'll have to ask Prime Minister Modi.
And there's another question from Indian Mastiff. He's asking, Modi going to Europe, what does India have to sell Europe except the usual people and study abroad rubbish?
I think it's not a matter of what India has to sell to Europe. It is a matter of what India can build with European companies in India for the Indian market as well as for the world market. That is something that India is capable of because we have the technical expertise. It's not that we can only make cheap t-shirts. We can make jet engines ourselves, provided we have full transfer of technology and also upgradation of our skills. And this again is something that Nordic companies are very willing to do and bring to India, including to our aviation sector.
There's that question I want to ask you about the Arctic Circle. Now, India is a member of the Arctic Circle, and we do have weather stations on the ice continent. What is the scope over here? What are we looking at down the road?
I think Arctic Circle is a bit of looking at the future. It's not so much what is happening right now. And in your forum, I'd like to correct a mistake that I keep seeing when I was Google searching. India did not get the observer status in Arctic Circle in 2019. It got
Much earlier.
it got the observer status in 2013. And the Nordic countries really pushed and helped in that, particularly Sweden, which was the chair at the time. You see, basically, the Arctic region is something that is there for the future. It is, what shall I say, it's money in the bank. It's got, according to estimates, it's got world's 20 to 30% of your oil resources. Same for your natural gas. They are not being exploited right now. India doesn't yet have the technology developed to be doing it on its own. It offers shipping routes, particularly for China. It will really cut short the time. So it's a geopolitically extremely important. And I would personally say that the most important feature of the Arctic Circle is that it's a very integral part of the study of the process of global warming, which affects us all. So unless India had observer status in it, which has resulted in over 100 of our institutes being a part of the whole research fraternity of what's going on in the Arctic Circle, we will not be prepared for what might be happening. So I see our membership, our observership in the Arctic Circle as an investment for the future. Very important geostrategic future.
And would you say there's an element of competition there vis-a-vis China?
Well, in terms of the route, the benefit for China is much more. China also has the right, has developed its technology to be able to do that. So our presence there will enable us to be aware of what's going on and see whether we can also carve a little portion of it if it is possible. So I would say not so much competition, but possibilities of collaboration, which we might miss if we were not observers of Arctic Circle.
Ambassador, do you think India could be under some pressure, not only over Ukraine, we are seeing that, but we also had some comments about the style of our democracy, the way it's going. You think there could be some, a little thing over there?
About where our democracy is going?
Well, we keep reading about these reports in the papers, especially in foreign media.
I will sound like an apologist, but the fact of the matter is that I saw in my 4 years in Sweden that the government has absolutely no control over what comes out in the media or what the different NGOs might say or do. They would not consider controlling it, but even if they tried, they would not succeed. It's a fact that when we had a VVIP visit, our president paid a visit there, the first ever presidential visit from India. We were having the press conference. And can you imagine the equivalent of the external publicity division head there told me that I have no control, I have no idea how many reporters might come. And you imagine the reverse here. JSXP can certainly influence and have a lot of media there. So basically, The media there will do what they want, say what they want. We should not see that in any way as a reflection of what the average people think or what the government thinks.
Last question, Ambassador Harrison. The PM makes a stopover in Paris before heading home. Tell us something about what could happen there.
It has strengthened the French connection. I think it's a very good gesture because, again, as I mentioned earlier, Prime Minister Modi has been able to develop a great personal rapport with Mr. Macron, and he has just won his election again. I think it's a very heartwarming gesture that he should be stopping there and conveying his, these kind of niceties actually strengthen. I mean, we underestimate how much they can strengthen the relationship at the highest level. Even if nothing concrete comes out, even if no extra Rafales are sold or bought, the fact that he's stopping over there and saying congratulations in person, this is something that's like, strengthening a friendship.
And would you say Paris is emerging as perhaps a strategic partner, perhaps equal to what Russia was in the good old days?
Absolutely.
Ambassador Harrison, thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you. And let's see when the Modi visit ends, maybe we'll revisit this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about something which really holds my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, and pleasure talking to you again. So all those of you who came to us with your comments, observations, and questions, sorry we didn't take all of them, but in the time given to us, we tried our best, or rather I tried my best. Keep coming to us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram. Thank you and good night.